Hello ladies and gentlemen, Cone Doctor here, welcome to Cone's Garage. It's time for the summer project, and that is the return of the Mark II Supra. If you aren't aware, this is a 1985 Toyota Celica Supra, owned by one Jonathan, or Slagathor as we know him as, and we have been tinkering with this car for a couple of years now, and this is the summer in which we go through this thing and get it 100% road ready, road trip worthy, and just overall looking and performing better. There's a long list of stuff to do. Let's go ahead and go through that list. So the Supra is back, and that means that we're going to start doing some stuff that has to do with getting the car street drivable in a way that you could just go cruising in it and have fun with it.
Yes.
Not do anything performance-minded with it.
It's reliable now.
It's reliable now?
Just hemorrhages all the fluids.
Right. Like the power steering fluid is currently to the garage door.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, this car is safe to drive on the road, except for the right rear caliper, which is locked up.
Yeah.
The windshield, which is cracked.
Yes.
And the massive power steering wheel.
So
what you see behind us is a list of all of the stuff we intend to do to this car over the summer. Again, not to make it a performance car and not to restore it, because this is not a car worth restoring.
Yeah, this is just a not show car, but presentable.
To get it presentable.
Yeah.
Yes. Get it presentable and get it just cruising, drivable, fun car status.
Just get in it and drive, no problems, no worries.
So the main thing we've started with here is Drivetrain motor pull, and it may be confusing why we even need to do that at all, because like I said, it's a running, driving car.
Yep.
The biggest thing for that is the power steering rack, which is underneath.
Yeah, it's underneath. It's actually, it's kind of in between the subframe and the engine. You can get it from you can drop it from underneath, which you'd have to have a lift, and it'd be a lot of disassembling versus just taking the engine out. So
right, you could drop the subframe.
Yeah.
And get to the rack, but then you got to prop the engine up.
Yeah.
And there's enough stuff on that engine to warrant pulling it that it just seems like it makes sense to do it. So, like all of this stuff here, power steering rack lines and rack bushings, that is all, well, the power steering rack is to try and fix the leak. The lines is to try and fix the leak. Like the rack bushings, that's to try and make it drive better. Yeah,
that's just because all the bushings on here are shot. If they're not dry rotted, then they're just oil soaked and deteriorated.
Or they're gone.
Yeah, and most of everything we have new. We've got a brand new rack. We're gonna have brand new bushings, brand new lines. So everything will be new. So it's nothing we had to try to diagnose.
It's new, but not aftermarket, for the most part.
You know, it's new OEM.
Because aftermarket for Mark II Supra is
non-existent.
But most of the stuff is like either new OEM parts or new old stock stuff.
Yeah, it's mostly new old stock.
The biggest thing I think that makes pulling the engine worthwhile is to revamp the cooling system. Doesn't overheat right now. It's only overheated once on you. We do live in Florida, and it's very taxing on a cooling system.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is the corrosion and the deterioration of the cooling system.
Yeah, everything that's touching it has just got some kind of corrosion or rust on it. So.
Right. And the Japanese were obsessed with this in this era. It goes from rubber to aluminum to steel to rubber to hose clamp to, it's just
lines everywhere.
Lines everywhere. And this one, unlike some of the cars I'm used to, it's actually the steel lines that seem to be failing.
All rusted out and holes in them, which we encountered. I don't know if it's included in the other clip that we did when we did the valve seals, us trying to fix.
I don't think I did. I think that was so far down into that valve seal project.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned at the end of it. Basically, it's just one of the lines wraps all the way around the back of the engine just to get fluid from one side to the other, and it just developed a hole in it.
Right.
So, and it's somewhere you can't get unless you take out the engine.
Kind of a disaster as far as that stuff goes. And getting to that stuff, as a disaster as that was, would be impossible to do with the engine, in my opinion. You'd have to pull the intake, you'd have to pull the exhaust, you have to pull everything. All that stuff's easier to do.
Everything but the block. So
everything is easier to do with the engine out.
Yep.
So I guess to go with the cooling system stuff, we have electric fan down there, which is something that also kind of goes back to that whole valve seal job. Because it was after testing the valve seals that the current cooling fan exploded, which is just a regular mechanical fan.
Yeah, just a clutch fan, the blade just flew off, broke the shroud. It's still cool, just fine and everything.
Well, maybe not with that one, but not with the one that.
Oh, not the one that wobbles and freaked me out and thought we blew something up.
That's a very traumatic thing. If you've never had a cooling fan blade come off,
Yeah.
it's an experience.
Yeah, because the whole car shakes. You think you just...
Right. I mean, right after we did one of the most intensive engine projects I've ever done. Like,
Yeah.
I've never done anything remotely like that. So we knew we wanted to either fix the shroud or do something with the fan.
Yeah, originally, clutch fan was fine. Don't have to worry about it. No extra wiring, no added hardware. It's just there. It's consistent. You don't have to worry about it. But with the recent episode of Engine Masters, we found out that you lose 30 horsepower with it.
Which for this engine is about...
a third of the horsepower.
Yeah.
So, and it needs all the horsepower it can get.
Right. With that, we will have to look into the electronic drain because the alternator in this car is pretty weak to begin with.
Yeah, need to get the alternator rebuilt to be stronger because they don't make a high amp alternator for this, and I found it's only a 60 amp.
And tied to that, I just remembered that you also thought about doing the LED lights for everything.
Yeah, so it's all the halogens, the LED, get the alternator rebuilt so it just has a little extra power. Because right now, when you stop at a red light or a stop sign, all the lights just kind of dim down.
It's got that old school, lights dimming down and everything. You know, even like the gauge cluster I noticed dimmed down.
Yeah, everything dims down.
It's pretty impressive. Really bad.
That could use a revamp at the same time.
So that kind of does it for stuff that is like have to pull the engine for, in my opinion.
Yep.
There's some other stuff though that we could do while we're in there. Inspect the dizzy and rotor cap. That happened again during the valve seal job.
Yep.
So we're just gonna take a look
at it again and see what we forgot.
Yeah, something in there was undone.
Something broke.
Left undone. It got thrown over there. It's probably still over there should we need to find what it was.
But it's broken.
Then the first actual mod on the car.
Yes.
Which is not the intent of this project, just to reiterate that, because there's no mods to do to this car to make it into anything like you had aspirations of an autocross car or things like that at times. We kind of discussed that over and over. The end result was to keep the car as it is and leave it as a cruiser, leave it as a daily driver. Not a daily driver, but a daily drivable car that you can drive when it's fun.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So you have a header, which is a pace setter header, which definitely not sponsored because not a big fan of pace setter headers.
No, they are what you get when it's what you pay for pretty much.
In the 90s, I remember a pace setter.
Here, hold part one.
Yeah.
It's part one.
Oh my God. In the 90s, this was like the only header company that made parts for Japanese and European cars.
Yeah.
Here. I remember that. However, I also remember them being garbage. Only in the sense that they're engineered in the old school philosophy of like, here's the tubes and here's where they need to go.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever bench flowed these or anything like that.
No, basically they're pipes instead of cast, so there you go.
Yeah. That's maybe a little lighter. Maybe.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing to do with this,
is the O2 sensor is, which I now also realize is also a kinked pipe that they welded on that goes all the way up to here, which gets it back to the original mounting location, but that's not going to read anything in a single pipe. There's zero gases that's going to get up here. So I just have to cut this off, weld it shut, and relocate the bung onto one of the runners on that. And then this will pretty much be good to go after we melt the paint off and then repaint it.
Right, because that's another thing I don't love about the pace setter headers is that they put this...
Just regular black paint.
I swear it's just regular like black spray paint.
Yeah.
Because it just flakes off, burns off, smells, it's awful.
Yep.
They apparently sell ceramic coated ones, but not for this car.
No.
There was, I believe OBX made a header for this car, but I could never find one again.
Doug Thorley made one at one point. They're few and far between if you can find one that's used. And G-Ready or Greddy, however it's pronounced, they make one that's $1,500, which is just not worth it.
No. I mean, honestly, I doubt we're going to get any power out of that. Maybe tiny little bit here or there. It's kind of one of those things like we have it, we use it.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll open up the sound a little bit more.
I do have a turbo manifold for it.
No. Maybe it'll open up the sound for it. But really, it's just, we have it. We'll use it. The exhaust system is tied to that. The exhaust system on the car when we got it was one of the most hilarious parts of this car.
Yeah, it was completely rusted through, completely stock system. Muffler just pulled right off. It was had Pepsi cans band clamped around it to fix the holes.
Which I was thrilled with because I always heard of that happening and I'd never seen it in person. But the first night we picked this car up, I saw that and I knew that this was the car.
It was the one.
To ruin my life. So that's kind of it for the exhaust. And again, that's not to make it faster. That's not to add power. I know as much as anybody else out there that kind of stuff, minimal gains at all.
Yep.
Never going to make this car fast. In here, for some reason, is brakes. Oh, because it's in the engine bay for the master.
Yeah.
And probably inspect the lines around that and inspect the booster to make sure it's not been rusted through anywhere.
Yep.
Doesn't show any signs of that, but
just look at it while it's open. Yeah.
Just going over everything there. That's probably the point that we'll end up doing the calipers and stuff like that in the rear.
Yeah.
You had one of the ones on the front do something bizarre. Where the
because we replaced the tie rods and we replaced the rotors and everything around the car, and one of the bolts that holds on the hub assembly backed out, completely locked the wheel up, stranded me about 2 hours away. Actually, I had to get Red, the 240, to go out there and
I remember this
handle the situation. So right now it's only held on with 3 bolts instead of 4, so that needs to be
fixed, and then whatever's going on with the rear calipers.
Yeah, one of the calipers is locked up potentially, so we just gotta just look at it again.
That'll probably be like a whole video, is just
brakes.
Yeah. Because that is one of the things on an older car like this that I think fails the most.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible, like that might scare somebody from wanting to drive something like this.
No, but even if you watch,
but it's extremely predictably failure.
Yeah, because
like it's not.
If you watch like Roadkill, for instance, that's one of the things is brakes. They're always old car. You got to worry about the brakes.
And hydraulic fluid is extremely corrosive.
Yeah.
So that whole system is under constant strain.
Yeah.
Let's see. While we have the engine out, starts the fun of rust repair. I've never welded.
I've never welded.
We have a welder.
I've watched a guy weld once.
Yeah, so that's going to be a process for us learning how to weld and just to get it back to the point of no water intrusion and a solid body. So for repairs like this, there is a hole in the cowl and a hole in the firewall.
There's a hole about this big around in the cowl. It just needs to be, basically it's rust prevention, stopping the rust from happening and kind of fixing what's there.
That's going to run down into the floorboards, and we don't want to get into
We're not looking
stuff.
for like perfection, restore rust. We're just stopping it and stopping the leaks.
When we put a panel under it, clean up all the rust. Like, I'm big on that. Remove all the rust.
Yeah.
But in areas like that, I'm not going to go in there and try and size a piece in there and tack it and make it
we're not TIG welding. It's just
smooth.
MIG welding. We're not worried about perfection. Just stop it.
For stuff like that especially, it's just going to be good enough to be sealed.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not a restoration. And the last thing for that first haul is going to be pulling the trans off, changing the fluid in the trans, which has probably never been changed in 30 years. Still shifts great.
Yeah.
Amazingly.
Yeah, everything's mechanically good on the car.
The clutch even grabs fine.
Yeah. At one point when it sat, it was kind of weird. Like it didn't have a clutch, and it's kind of back now. But at that point, I already bought a XZD full clutch kit for it.
It's got a good clutch in it. We have a nice clutch kit.
Yeah.
I think the flywheel scored. It bucks a lot like when you're first taking off from slow speeds.
Yeah.
Could be motor mounts too, which I believe we wrote. Yep.
Yeah.
So probably redo motor mounts. He has a theory on motor mounts.
Yeah, the motor mounts, they don't make aftermarket mounts for this anymore. So you can replace it with just a standard rubber ones, or if you want poly ones or the stiffer ones, you have to get a GM transmission mount and just like move one bolt hole and it mounts perfectly to the engine. So that's only like $30.
Either way, I mean, I don't love poly mounts, but
I did find a transmission mount.
A regular?
Old stock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That will help that situation. But yeah, we'll do the clutch, we'll get the flywheel resurfaced, put it all back together, and that should be fine, because like I said, it shifted great before.
Yeah, nothing's wrong with the transmission.
You could do a short shifter on it. I highly suggest not doing that on a car like this.
I'm not racing it.
And all you're going to do is damage the transmission.
Yeah.
All right, so that kind of covers first phase. And first phase will be doing all of that stuff that helps the car run and drive nicer and more reliably.
Yeah. Basically, just trying to get it back to maybe a 10, 15-year-old car instead of a 30-year-old car.
Great. Which, I mean, even the TT is like 10 years old. So,
Yeah.
like, when you take that frame of mind of like what a 10-year-old car actually is, it makes this car seem really old.
Yeah, this car has, I think, sat 2 or 3 times since it's been purchased.
For
years at a time.
Years at a time, yeah.
Somebody bought it, did the, when you buy a car, clean the gas tank out and all that kind of stuff. Drove it for about a year and then let it sit, and the next owner, and so it's just a cycle.
We're trying to break the cycle.
Yes.
So we then move into body chassis. This stuff we're going to go through a little bit quicker because this is stuff just to make the car presentable again. I found this car on Craigslist. He was looking for kind of just getting into cars, I believe. You weren't really into cars.
I had a truck at the time, just a Toyota Tacoma, and looking into cars, starting to go into autocrosses, his autocrosses, and starting to want something different. So.
And I saw this on Craigslist. I personally knew nothing about them.
Yeah. Because
the world instantly forgot that the Mark II Supra existed when the Mark III and Mark IV Supras existed.
Yes.
They're inferior cars to them.
And in my life, I've only ever seen 3.
Yeah.
So they're just not around. And actually, whenever he sent me the link, the next day, I believe it was, or 2 days after, I had sold my truck, and then we were headed down south to pick it up.
Went there, picked it up, basically as you see it now.
Yeah.
We went over the little repairs that we did for brakes and suspension arms. But pretty much bought it sight unseen and drove it back 2.5 hours.
Midnight.
Oh yeah, it was like
around,
midnight.
I was like, okay, I'll take it. Here's your money. We're leaving now. I have a preference for 80s, early 90s looks and retroness.
I did not have a preference for 80s designs at the time. There's just something about the combination of this car that makes it work for me.
Yeah.
I don't really, the internet is somebody like, I need a bodyguard right now because the internet's about to kill me. I do not like A86s.
I'm with you on that.
I just don't. They're not attractive to me. They're not that interesting to me.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when you scale it up 150%, it becomes an interesting car.
I even had a guy ask me if this was an 86. I was like, no, it's kind of a little bit bigger than that.
It's a XL86.
Yes.
I like the way it looks. People now respond to it very positively.
Oh yeah.
People love seeing this car out and about because you don't see them.
No, and it basically always has to say Supra on the back.
Yeah.
People see Supra and like, wait a minute.
I think that's a Supra.
That wasn't a Fast and Furious.
Does that mean it's turbo? Does that mean it's fast? That's basically the way the response goes. It's none of those things, but people still respond to it very positively. So all of this is to make that better, to make it so you can drive it around and be proud of it.
Yeah.
Instead of driving around
with tape
enjoying it with tape on the roof and hoping to car Jesus that nobody comes close to it.
Yeah. Even if they do, people still come up to it. Man, this thing is nice. It's because they're just blown away. They're seeing one. They're not actually looking at the rust holes on it.
So real quick here, here's the major rust repairs. Right rear corner, big hole. That's the biggest problem. Moonroof.
Well, that's the 2 biggest problems. The moonroof, I guess the moonroof itself that slides in has rust all the way around it. Huge holes through it. I do have a new one that's less rust. It's easily repairable, so that'll go on. And as far as the right corner, these cars, which we were talking about making a video just for all the weird quirks that this car has, because there's a lot of interesting things about the car, but it had a bladder in the back quarter panel that's just looks like an IV bladder that's just filled with water that powers the rear window washer fluid.
Which is not bizarre. Like, new cars come with tanks for that. But this was a bladder. This was a rubber and plastic bladder.
And every single one you see of these cars has a rust hole in that area because they all leaked and then rusted out.
Because it's either filled with water, usually, or windshield wiper fluid, which is also corrosive.
Yes.
There's some other little stuff, and I'll just get some clips of the other little things. But again, what I really want to reiterate is that we're not going to be doing super fine repairs here.
No.
Even the one near the window is probably going to end up that we remove the rust, we clean it up, and we may end up just filling it because I don't want to bust that window, and we don't want to remove that window because it's...
Yeah, there's little...
How many of those are there?
Yeah, little rust holes around the windows that just allow water to get in, so we just got to stop that.
And the windshield... Did we actually write the windshield on here? The windshield has to come out of the thing. The windshield needs to be replaced.
It's got 1,000 cracks in it. And
it's terrible. And there's little rust holes around the windshield. Yeah. So what we'll end up doing is pulling the windshield, welding in the little areas, but losing the factory molding, which is...
I have another... The factory molding on this car was there when I bought it. Going down the highway at possibly excessive speeds, it flew off, so it's gone forever. But the other shell that I bought has perfect molding on it. It'd be kind of difficult to put it back on, so we're thinking just a universal molding kit for it.
Just to fill the gap and keep it from rusting again.
Yeah.
Yep. If this was a car that I thought someday would be worth $100,000 because it was super rare, then it'd be worth finding that original molding and putting it back and all that stuff.
Even in mint condition, these cars aren't worth more than $5,000-$6,000. So
it's never going to be, I don't think.
No.
I mean, you never know. But, I mean, well, I'm in my 30s now, and I realize that the era of automobiles is probably not that long-lived. There's going to come a point when owning a car is looked upon like as a negative.
Yeah.
And driving cars is a negative.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's enough time in the automotive history.
The group of car owners and enthusiasts is just shrinking.
Right. That these kind of cars will reach the 69 Camaro levels of six-figure values.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
No.
And it's not a 69 Camaro.
No.
I realize that I'm not living in a fantasy land that this is some kind of super rare supercar. It's not. But it's just cool, and there's not a lot of them. That's why I want to fix it.
It's neat.
It's neat. The hatch, we have a hatch. We have two hatches.
I got two hatches. One has less rust, one has no rust. So probably going to use one with no rust.
Right. So in the video series that will be rust repair, this hatch that is on the car will probably be practice.
Yeah, it'll be test subject.
Of welding new metal to 85 Japanese metal, which is not great. And then as far as the paint and stuff goes, that's going to be a pretty extensive job in the fact that, A, we want to keep the car black.
Yeah, I want to keep it black. Body lines are clean on it. There's no dents, no wrecks, anything. There's maybe small little like shopping cart dents here and there, but nothing major. But painting black, he's painted a car once. I've only used spray paint. I know a few painters, so we might enlist somebody to help paint, or we might tackle it ourselves and see how it goes. We'll find out as we go.
But the extensive part will be removing the moldings, the side skirts, the
fender flares.
Fender flares, that's the words I was looking for.
Bumper.
The bumpers, and getting all that stuff prepped. So that's going to be a pretty intensive project.
Yeah.
That will
be the final project.
Right, that's going to be the end of everything, probably.
Either that or the interior. Probably same time.
I think the interior is probably going to be one of those overtime kind of deals. Like, it's not something we maybe even tackle during this project series. Getting the seats done is the priority for the interior. Other than the seats, you can kind of get passable on everything inside.
Yeah, and I do interior stuff, so I'm not really too worried about that. That's something I just do at any time.
Right. And then we have some interior stuff on there. It's just kind of a reminder of what needs to be done. One of the last things that we might end up changing or modifying or improving is wheels and suspension as far as the height of the car.
Yep.
It's a 1985 Toyota Supra. It's not low.
Yeah, it's a truck.
And it has 14-inch rims.
Yep.
That we love. I love these wheels. They're iconic.
They're
Chip Foose.
Factory deep dish with a -25, so they're
if
desired.
Chip Foose decided that this was a good enough wheel design to replicate, then obviously it's a pretty good design.
Yeah.
And the sad part of it is they're the wrong size.
Yes.
Because there's no tires for these.
There's 2 tires for these, so
that is a problem. It's not that you couldn't find them. But if we wanted to take this thing to West Coast and, you know, go on a wild, crazy road trip and a thing, to have the limitation of only being able to find the tires on order somewhere is a problem. So we're looking through options.
Yeah, we're basically, it's, if any of you are like on the Discord, there's a full list going on right now of wheels and options. So feel free to throw your ideas in there. Because
we'd like to go very little bit larger. We discussed this a little bit before. In the wheel size on this car is very tricky. Like on my S13, the 17s, for whatever reason, just look perfect.
Yeah, the body style and the lines and everything.
Everything just matched up to the 17s. You go up to an 18, looks hideous.
Yeah.
This car, I think you go above 16 and it starts to look like
once you go past 16. Because I think that loses its era, the 80s, 90s look. Then it looks like you're trying to retro something, and this isn't a car that you like retro mod or anything.
It makes it look more muscle car-y, and that's not... I don't even like that they're putting that big a wheel on muscle cars. I think that looks stupid. So it doesn't look right on here either. Just
to keep it classic looking and nostalgic looking, we're going to keep it 15 or 16 at the most, which is a few options, but we'll see. It's
tricky, and it's a 4x100 plug pattern. So already we have parts: clutch, main seals, header, we went over that, thermostat, sway bar bushings and end links, slave cylinder for the clutch, and an oil pan gasket that we'll probably not even use and use RTV on, because RTV is awesome. Especially for stuff like that.
I did not know about RTV using that as a gasket for an oil pan when I bought the gas. I just saw a gasket for like 13 cents and I bought it. I'm about to do another purge on Rock Auto and buy pretty much everything else they have.
Sponsor us, please.
Not gonna happen. Actually, Monster, if you're out there, I'd like to be sponsored. But
yeah, because this is the most adrenaline pumping Monster, right in line with their brand, and this is perfect.
Extreme.
So that kind of covers what we'll be doing. The videos are going to be, we'll record as we're doing it. It might just be me and some, it might just be him and some. It might be, you know, days of footage throughout episodes, because it's summer in Florida. Summer in Florida, if you're not aware, sucks.
Miserable.
It is awful.
Even here at night, it's
we're recording
miserable.
What? Is it 9 o'clock? It is 9 o'clock at night, and we've been sweating like crazy. Somebody's been sweating like crazy out here. It's just gonna be that way. It was like, you know, this is not really the kind of state to do summer projects in. But my thought was, but you only want to drive in the winter.
And being that we're not going to have AC working, most likely. We have everything for it, but it's just too far gone to try to bring back. So
that's like a future project when we've decided that the car is just great. What else should we do with it? That would be fun.
We'll just get the blower working so we can have heat and defrost the windshield. But
that would be nice, because that's what we need. Heat.
Well, if we're going to Washington in the car.
Maybe.
Definitely.
Defroster is nice to have. I will give you that. Currently, the defroster is the cracks in the windshield letting air through. But that is kind of the overview of our plans. There's other stuff that might come up throughout it as far as modification goes, but overall, that's not the theme. The 240 is more of that kind of project of here's the stuff that might make it faster, more cool. And that is a very good platform for it, because there's everything for that car.
This is nothing. So this is
there
just
is nothing for this car.
Make it back nice stock, and that's pretty much it.
So that covers our plans. I hope you're excited for the project moving forward. Hopefully this guy, over the course of this, will get more comfortable being on camera and isn't a statue the whole time. Probably not going to happen. But like I said, it'll be kind of an all-summer thing. There might be a month where we don't do anything. There might be a week where we do 3 things. You know, it's just going to be however it falls. But for sure, where we're starting is pulling the engine.
Pulling the engine.
Which should be no more than a day project, actually pulling the engine. And probably won't cover a ton of it, just like, here it goes, and like do a time lapse of taking all the stuff off. I've never pulled the engine out of anything but a 240. but I've done that like 15 times.
I've helped you pull an engine on 240, so that's my experience.
So I don't imagine it's going to be that dramatic of a thing to do.
Yeah.
But you just never know with
I'm sure
stuff like
bolts
this.
are rusty, and that's going to be our
Something's
main
gonna
issue,
break.
is
Yeah.
breaking stuff. And
Stuff.
the connections. A lot of weird, like bottle connections on there that I'm sure we're going to break.
I don't think I said it, but kind of going through the vacuum system
vacuum
is
lines
something
too.
that
Yeah.
is in there. All that stuff's going to break.
Yeah. But that's all stuff that we'll just cover as it happens.
Right. So there you have it, the outline of what will be going on with the Supra. There's probably stuff we missed and stuff that we'll find that we need to do throughout the summer project. But mainly we just want to take this car that never really found its stride. It never really showed itself in the light. But all we want to do is give this car that was put out to pasture a second chance on life and maybe give it its 15 seconds of fame that its younger siblings took from it.